Hello, everyone, and welcome to Clarksville's Political Forums. I'm Van Stokes, your moderator for today's session, and on behalf of Leadership Clarksville and your Clarksville Area Chamber of Commerce, we're glad you could be with us. This forum is coming to you from the facilities of the Mass Communications Department here on the campus of Austin Peay State University, and it is intended for you, the viewers and the voters, to have an informed choice when you go to the polls to vote on August the 7th. Today, we are going to have the opportunity to meet and greet and hear from the candidates who will be on the ballot for County Commission from District number 16. They are to my left, Mr. Wallace Redd and Ms. Loretta Bryant. Now, in a moment, they will each have 2 minutes in which to present opening comments. Following their opening remarks, we're then going to turn to our distinguished panel. On my right, they are the business editor and county government writer for the Leaf Chronicle, Mr. Jimmy Settle. From 5-Star Radio and ClarksvilleNow.com, Mr. Lee Irwin. And the executive director of Progressive Directions and the president-elect of Civitan International, Mr. Jay Albertia. Each candidate will be given 1 minute in which to respond to the questions from our panelists. They will respond in a rotating order. At the conclusion of the questioning, each candidate will have 2 minutes in which to present closing remarks. Their closing comments will be presented in reverse order from their opening remarks. Our timekeeper for this session is Ms. Elena Stubbs. County commissioners are voted into office for 4-year terms and are elected by you, the voters, in their respective districts. The County Commission meets twice monthly to discuss and vote on a variety of resolutions, including county government policy, county budget, the school system budget, and property tax rates. County commissioners also serve on various committees which are devoted to specific departments or particular subject matters. They range from the county jail to animal control and many other pertinent matters. Let's go now to our candidates and hear opening comments. First of all, we will hear from Mr. Wallace Redd.
Thank you, and thank you especially to those of you who will be watching at home by television. My name is Wallace Redd. I'm a candidate for County Commissioner. My wife Helga and I, we've lived in District 16 over the last 30 years. We raised 3 children there, 2 of which are now school teachers, and 1 that is at Austin Peay working on his master's degree. As a child, my parents instilled into me an old-fashioned patriotism and a need for public service. Like my father and my grandfather, I served in the Army to do my part for my country. I served with the 2nd of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment and here at Fort Campbell with the 101st Airborne. I also serve as a member of the Clarksville City Council and as the past Mayor Pro Tem. Service to my country and my community has been my humble honor and my privilege, and I am thankful for it. I'm running for the office of County Commissioner because it's time for change. You see, the county raises taxes every other year, but yet we are still more than $340 million in debt. The family affair favoritism and nepotism is rampant. I will work for ethic reforms. I'm not retired from county government. I can't vote for my own pay or my own benefits or the pay or benefits of my family. In fact, I wrote an ordinance with the city that prevents elected officials from working for the city for up to 1 year after leaving office. This ordinance was tested all the way to the State Attorney General's office, and it held. I'll write a similar resolution for our county. I will be honest and fair with all my decisions. I will hold town hall meetings to hear from those of you that I represent. It's time for change. My name is Wallace Redd, and I would sincerely appreciate your vote.
Thank you very much. Next, we will hear opening comments from Ms. Loretta Bryant.
Thank you. Thank you to the ladies and gentlemen here today and our sponsors, Leadership Clarksville, as well as the Clarksville Chamber and Austin Peay for hosting this public event. It gives the citizens of our community an opportunity to see firsthand the candidates that are running. I am Loretta Bryant, your current county commissioner. I've lived and worked in Montgomery County for the last 37 years. 27 of those years I have lived in District 16 in the Melinda Drive area. My husband and I both are retired. I retired with 22 years of service from the city of Clarksville and another 10 years 7 in county government and 3 with 911. We have 3 adult children, 2 that live in this community and work and serve here. We have 8 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. My goals and desires as your county commissioner is to be your voice and vote and represent each of you in my district. I want to listen to your concerns and continue to support your needs. We operate the county by state mandates. Those mandates are under state statute. A lot of those mandates involve emergency services, education, and many others. Our tax rate has been the same for the past 7 years at $3.14. There's a new assessment coming this year, and we will know what our penny will be worth and what the value of the tax dollar is. Thank you.
And thank you very much for those opening remarks. We will now turn to our panelists who have questions for our candidates. Each candidate will answer every question in a rotating order. Let's go first of all to Mr. Jimmy Settle. And Mr. Settle, your question goes to Mr. Wallace Redd first.
Thank you. Mr. Redd, both of you have made introductory remarks. If you will, please pinpoint and describe those aspects of yourself that you feel uniquely qualify you for a seat on the county commission compared to your opponent.
Thank you. Well, as I mentioned in my opening, I've served as the Clarksville's Mayor Pro Tem. That gave me a lot of insight within government. I guess one of the main things that I've done is I chaired the first charter revision committee there for the city of Clarksville, and I served on the other 2 revision committees. There is no better way to get an in-depth understanding than to go through the complete charter of a local government. I've also graduated from the primary leadership and development course a long time ago in the Army, the NCO Academy, and Baumholder, and I have a lot of experience in those areas of leadership. Thank you.
Ms. Bryant.
Yes. I also have been and had the honor to be commissioner for the past 16 years, closing down my 16th year. I have been to many management classes, leadership classes. I've had the opportunity to serve on many boards as well as be Mayor Pro Tem. I find that it was the hardest part, the first 4 years coming into office facing the tornado when we had so many county offices that were destroyed. We spent many nights until midnight burning the midnight oil deciding on how to redevelop the downtown area of county offices that was hit. So therefore, I feel like I have a lot of years of experience underneath my belt. Thank you.
Mr. Lee Irwin, you have the question, and Ms. Bryant, you have the first response.
Ms. Bryant, tell us what are, say, a couple of the top issues facing Montgomery County right now, and how would you propose to deal with those issues?
Well, a couple of the top issues obviously right now are schools because of the community growth, and with those schools come cost. So there's many ways of looking how we can have some cost saving. We've talked about additional adding on to the schools rather than building a new school to save money. And another factor is, as I said earlier in my opening statement, is state mandates. We try each year to lobby our state and local people in Nashville to prevent the county from having these mandates.
Mr. Redd.
Yes, I would say one of the top issues as I talk to the people and I go door to door is taxes. You know, just a couple of years ago we had the 26 cents a tax increase. It's already been mentioned. We're going to have the reassessment that's going to come up later this year. And the debt. You know, we have $340 million worth of debt within the county, and we have some capital projects, of course, that are have some cost overruns to those. But what I think a top issue is education. I think that we need to give instead of these capital projects that could be put off for a longer period of time, first we need to fully fund our classroom and give the teachers and the children in those classrooms the tools that they need. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. J. Albertia, you have the next question, and it's going to go to Mr. Wallace Redd.
Mr. Redd, we just talked about the top issues that both of you see that Montgomery County has, but what specific issues do you see that are taking place in your own district, and how do you address those issues?
Thank you for that question. One of the top issues that we have in our district, we have a rock quarry there that is located really close to the residents that live nearby. I fought against the rock quarry, but the rock quarry is there, and they seem to make a lot of noise at all times of the night, 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. One of the things that I did, I worked on a noise ordinance and was successful to get that noise ordinance passed, which has alleviated a lot of the problems that we have in that area. And I think one of the things that we could work on in the area that we lived at is the roads there too, and have a lot of road improvements. Thank you.
Ms. Bryant?
I also agree with Wallace as far as the rock quarry is concerned. Part of that development was in the city and part of it was in the county. I too supported not having the rock quarry there. It is loud and it is disturbing to the neighborhood. Also, I was concerned with the traffic coming in and out of the rock quarry. In any time of the day, there's numerous trucks coming in and out. And of course, that's a state matter, but it's also a local matter for us as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jimmy Settle, let's go back to you. You have the next question. It goes to Ms. Bryant.
Yes, Ms. Bryant, you know, in a rapidly growing community, serving on the county commission is an increasingly time-intensive endeavor, if you may. Please talk, if you will, about the time that you personally have to devote to this position as this county grows and as more and more problems come forward to the courthouse and such.
It is a very time-consuming effort to give yourself 100% on whatever board that you're on. It could meet once every 3 months, it could meet once a month, and those meetings could last anywhere from an hour to 3 to 4 hours. If you serve on the budget committee, which I've had the opportunity to do so on 3 different occasions, at present I am on the budget committee, you can spend hours and hours there. That takes time away from your family as well as yourself.
Mr. Redd.
Thank you. I'm fortunate in that I am self-employed and I'm pretty flexible whenever it comes to meeting times and things of that nature. And I understand, though, that we don't want just to have everybody that serves in elected office that's self-employed or retired. The city does a very good job for those people that have an employment where they have to be there from a certain time in the morning to the evening. They do a very good job to make sure that they are able to make a schedule to work around that schedule. And but I'm flexible because of my self-employment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lee Irwin, you have the next question, and it goes to Mr. Redd.
Mr. Redd, how do you propose to stay connected with the residents of your district, say to increase their involvement in the planning for Montgomery County's future?
Well, I have community meetings that, and I've even out of my own pocket paid for the expense of having automated calls to contact the voters and people that were on the list before. And I hold community meetings usually at the Cleveland Community Center about once every 2 months, maybe quarterly. I also have on social network a page there where my citizens can contact me. I have an email, I have my phone number, and people can contact me by phone. Thank you.
Ms. Bryant?
I also have social media. Obviously, my email address is online under the county as well as my home phone number and my address. I'm always open to anyone who has any concerns or questions in our community.
Thank you very much. Moving right along, Mr. J. Albertia, you have the next question. It goes to Ms. Loretta Bryant.
Ms. Bryant, when we've had these talks so far, we've talked about a lot of funding issues throughout the county. Do you believe that all our county departments are adequately funded? And if not, which department do you see that needs additional funding?
Well, there is less than adequate funding, basically because there's education takes a large portion of our tax dollars. The general fund itself does not have as much money as the educational fund. Each office, I think, feels confident that they all could use more money. However, right now, I think the concentration, because of the growth in our community, obviously is going to have to be fire service as well as emergency service, along with education.
Mr. Redd?
Well, my question would be, are the citizens adequately funded? That would be my first concern. You know, it seems like in government, whenever they just need more money for something, they just go to the taxpayers and raise taxes. Private businesses, they have to downsize, they have to coordinate, and they have to let people go by attrition or even lay people off. You know, I mean, the taxpayer, the government has to learn to do with the money that it is receiving now, and it's got to stop going back to the taxpayer time and time again. Thank you.
Mr. Jimmy Settle, we are back to you. Your question goes to Mr. Wallace Redd.
Okay, Mr. Redd, the County Commission recently approved construction of a 24th elementary school for Montgomery County. We're confronted with building new schools at a rapid pace to curb overcrowding. But there's an undercurrent that I commonly hear at the courthouse from some commissioners, at least, that we need to change course and start expanding schools we already have rather than building new schools. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, when I was in the 9th grade, I went to a school in Marshall County, Tennessee, and there it was a 2-story school. It may be 3 stories. I can't really, it's hard to remember that far back specifically, but I do know that it was more than one level. That's something that we could look at, having stairs to go up to the 2nd or maybe even the 3rd floor. The schools that we build too, we could build on a lot bigger so we can have room to expand. And we can look at the schools that we have that are not at capacity to see what we can do to fill those up before we go to building another school. Thank you.
Ms. Bryant?
As I mentioned before, obviously to build on top of a school is the most cost-effective way to enlarge that school. The last 2 schools that we've approved, the one just recently that hasn't been built yet and the one prior to that, do have the footprint that will be able to extend upward to enlarge that school system when needed.
You are watching Clarksville's Political Forum. We are meeting with candidates for the County Commission from District Number 16, Mr. Wallace Redd and Ms. Loretta Bryant. Let's continue with our questions. Mr. Lear, when you have the next question, and it goes to Ms. Bryant.
Ms. Bryant, what role do you feel that the County Commission should play in business and economic development in the area?
I think that's a very important role. Obviously, the city and county as a community has to think of the needs of the people that live there, and we have a younger generation that is looking more into user-friendly space, parks, as well as trails, walking areas, places for their animals to walk and run. So it plays a major part in our growing community.
Mr. Redd.
Well, economic development is, of course, good for our communities, but the thing about economic development that we should understand, the first priority, the first and foremost priority of a business whenever it looks to relocate to a place is, can we make a profit? Because that's what businesses have to look at first. We are fortunate that we live in Tennessee. It does not have an income tax. And that is one of the reasons why a lot of businesses come here, because it doesn't have the regulations, it doesn't have the massive tax amounts that other cities and states have.
Thank you very much. We have time for a couple of more questions. Let's go to Mr. J. Albertia. You've got the question, and Mr. Redd, you've got the response.
Mr. Redd, can you name one or two quality of life issues you feel Montgomery County could do a better job in fulfilling for its citizens?
Well, whenever I think of quality of life issues, I don't look at just the government. I think that in the private sector, our quality of life is made much better from the businesses and the things that comes here. Of course, like we were talking about economic development. If we can have businesses here, if we can keep our taxes low, so businesses keep locating here, we have jobs for our citizens, and that helps their quality of life. I think that we need to work to make sure that we pay down the $340 million worth of debt, and we need to keep our taxes low, our property taxes, and stop raising taxes every other year. Because I feel like people, if they can keep their own money or more of their own money, they can use it and make a better quality of life and spend it for their own needs better than the government can. Thank you.
Ms. Bryant?
I think I touched on a little bit of quality of life a while ago in my answer to Mr. Settle, and that quality of life for what the county has done in the past few years is to build community centers where people can actually go in and use these. There's a new one in Guthrie, South Guthrie. There's a new one out in Cumberland Heights. And these assist the people in the community when they need to have events. They're able to use those, as well as the center that's located over off of Crossland Avenue.
Thank you. And Mr. Jimmy Settle, you have the final question for our candidates. It will go to Ms. Bryant.
Thank you. Ms. Bryant. Granted, to some extent, we're waiting on word about the impact of the reassessment, which is currently underway. But given all that, with all the departmental needs that have come before the Budget Committee in recent days, do you think it's realistic to expect that the county property tax rate can remain where it is now for the foreseeable future? Please talk about that, if you will.
Well, a lot of that will depend on the assessment. And of course, you know, right now the penny is worth $327,000. So that's coming in a little bit better than what we anticipated. Obviously, you cannot have growth and you cannot have productive growth without serving your community by giving to the needs of the departments and the demands. With the new Hankook that's coming, there'll have to be a fire station, an ambulance service built there. And that will be more cost as well as other cost factors. So realistically, somewhere down the line, there will have to be a tax increase.
Mr. Redd.
Well, I was just thinking this must be more of a rhetorical question. If the tax rate can stay at 314 or maybe a one-liner. The answer is no, it can't if we don't start making some changes within county government. I don't think that it can. Because like I mentioned in the opening, we seem to raise taxes every other year, but yet we're still more than $340 million in debt. Thank you.
And thank you very much. We have gone through a number of questions from our panelists. They have covered areas such as taxes, debt, staying involved with the constituents in the community, funding, district issues to include rock quarries and roads, the economic development of Montgomery County, quality of life, and our current tax rates and how they look down the road. We now go to our closing comments. We will hear first from Ms. Loretta Bryant.
Thank you. My goal as your county commissioner is to continue to be your voice and vote on issues that concern the people in my district. I am one vote, and I am the vote of District 16. Thank you for your support and vote in the past years, and I ask for your continued support in August the 7th, 2014. May you all be blessed and know that I will consider anything that you have that is concerned. Please feel free to give me a call. Thank you.
And thank you. Next, closing comments from Mr. Wallace Redd.
Thank you. And again, thank you to those of you who are watching at home by television. And again, my wife and I, we've lived there in District 16 over the last 30 years. We raised 3 children there, 2 of which are now school teachers. And I also have served in the 2nd 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment in the Army. I served here at Fort Campbell with the 101st Airborne Division. I currently serve as a member of the Clarksville City Council and the past Mayor Pro Tem. Currently, it's been my honor and my privilege to serve my community. I'm currently running for this office, County Commissioner, because I believe it is time for change. Again, the county raises taxes every other year, but we are still more than $340 million in debt. We need ethic reforms. I don't work for and I'm not retired from county government. I can't vote for my own pay or my family members' pay and benefit. In fact, I wrote the ordinance that prevents elected officials from working for the city even up to 1 year after leaving office. I'm going to write the same resolution for our county. I will be honest, open, and fair with my decisions. I'll hold town hall meetings to hear from those of you that I represent. I believe it's time for change. My name is Wallace Redd, and I'm humbly asking for your vote. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mr. Wallace Redd and Ms. Loretta Bryant, for being with us here today, taking time out of your schedule, answering the questions from our panelists, and talking to our viewers and voters at home. I also want to say thank you very much to our distinguished panel today for your questions. Very helpful in taking the issues out, putting them on the table, and allowing our candidates to address each issue one by one. If you're watching at home, I want to remind you, August the 7th, that is the date of the state primary and county general elections. If you prefer early voting instead, the early voting period runs from July the 18th through August the 2nd. You can cast your vote at the Montgomery County Election Commission located at Montgomery Veterans Plaza. They're at 350 Pageant Lane. And once again, a great big heartfelt thanks to the folks here, the broadcast crew at the Mass Communications Department at Austin Peay State University for broadcasting this event. And a special thanks to Leadership Clarksville and your Clarksville Area Chamber of Commerce for making this forum possible. Until next time, I'm Van Stokes saying so long, everyone.